Hello, here's Luisa from Timely Studio, and this is a tutorial for those of you who want to learn how to draft sewing patterns on your PC. In this tutorial, we are going to use the software Valentina, which is a free pattern making software, and we'll be using this Panty pattern as an example so you can learn from it. The instructions how to draft a Panty pattern are on my website, timelystudio.com. And there's a link in the description, and there is also a link in the description where you can download the Valentina software. Please be aware that English is not my first language. I'll try to speak as clear as possible, but if there's something you don't understand, then just don't hesitate to ask in the comments. Okay, what are we learning today? So at first I'll be talking about what is Valentina and how does Valentina work. And then we'll practicing this, what we learned before, by drafting this basic Panty pattern. So what is Valentina? Valentina is an open source 2D CAD software for drafting sewing patterns, and the lead developer is Roman Telezinski. I put together some pros and cons. So big pro is of course that it's free, but what makes Valentina really outstanding and different from most other pattern making software is that it has a really innovative and easy grading system. This grading system is really amazing, and I'll tell you more about it later. What's also great is that that your finished patterns can be exported to CorelDRAW, Inkscape or Illustrator. This is great because in Valentina there is still limited possibility for pattern manipulation. That means if you want to rotate pattern pieces or cut them apart and put them together in a new way, this is not so great in Valentina. So for this you should rather use one of the other programs here. So but altogether Valentina is an amazing program. And there's no risk in trying it because it's free, but it's perfect for drafting patterns that are based purely on measurements. So now how does Valentina work? So every pattern in Valentina will go through these 4 steps. The first step is to create a measurement table where you will define your measurement and fill in the values you measured on your body. And the next step is to draft the pattern in the draft mode. You can use points, lines, arcs and curves to draft the pattern guidelines and pattern lines. And then the pattern pieces are finished in the detail mode, where you will add a seam allowance to the pattern pieces. And then in the 4th step, you will export or print the pattern pieces in the layout mode. You can export them, as I said, to CorelDRAW, Inkscape, Illustrator or a lot of other programs, or you just print it to paper. And now I want to talk a bit more how drafting in Valentina works. These are some important things you should know before you actually start drafting in Valentina. It will go much smoother then. So as I said before, you can do points, lines, arcs and splines. These are curves. And what is so amazing about Valentina is the bi-directional association, a difficult word, between measurement and geometry. What this means is it's really simple. That means if I change the measurement of this line, then the length of the line will change. And if I manually change the length of the line, then the measurement of the line will change. That means, let's say the line is 1/4 of my waist girth, and if I change in the measurement table the value of my waist girth, then the line will change as well. And that means if I change the measurements in my measurement table and my whole pattern is built on that measurements, the pattern will change. And so it's super easy to grade the pattern to a new size by simply changing the measurements in the measurement table. If you made everything before correct, and I will tell you how to do that. And now one thing you need to know before starting pattern drafting in Valentina are these important mathematical rules. I'm sure most of you already know these. They're pretty basic, but just wanted to, you to know. So what is really important for Valentina is how angles are defined in a coordinate system. So really just memorize these pictures, it's important. So we have 0 degrees on the right, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. The symbols used in Valentina are shown here. You have multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and the brackets. You can use a lot more mathematical symbols in Valentina, but these are the most important ones. And the other ones you can look up in the user manual. There's also a link in the description for the user manual. So, and then there are these 2 rules. Really, you need to know them. I'm sure you do already. I just wanted to tell you again. The terms and brackets are always calculated before the rest of the equation, and multiplication and division are calculated before subtraction and addition. So if you know how to solve this equation, then you're ready to draft patterns in Valentina with me. So for drafting the patterns, you need to download Valentina with this link. The link is also in the description. And you need to look up the drafting instruction for the Panty pattern. The link is also in the description. And if there's anything not answered in this video, you can always look in the user manual, link in the description. So let's start practicing on Valentina. Here you can see my desktop. This is the symbol for the Valentina program, and this is a symbol for the measurement table program. So we start Valentina. So there it is. You see the interface is completely gray yet. We can't do anything. That's because the very first thing we need to do is to start a new project by clicking on New. And we call the pattern piece 1. It's okay. What's important is you choose your unit. You can choose between centimeters, millimeters, and inches, and I'll choose centimeters. And click OK. And now everything is activated. So first I want to explain a bit the user interface. So here you can save your pattern and open a new pattern. Here you can add a new pattern piece. On this bar you can zoom in or zoom out, and also here will be reappearing the return button, which is an important button as everyone knows. And here you can activate the steps I talked about before. Right now we're in the drawing mode. Then there's a detail mode and the layout mode. In this bar you have all the information about the point you chose. So right now there's just one basic point I can choose, but later there will be lines and arcs and curves, and depending on what's activated, you will have all the information here. But this is the most important bar, the one you will use the most. Here are your drawing tools. So these are all tools for drawing points, tools for drawing lines, for drawing curves, splines, and arcs. And here the second and third step, the detail mode and the layout mode. So I won't explain all of these tools, but once you know how the basic tools work, you will be able to understand how the other tools work as well, and you can always read them up in the user manual. So if you remember the sheet from before, the very first thing we need to do is to create a measurement table, and that's what we're going to do now. We go to measurements and click on create, edit. If we already had a measurement table, we could load one, but we don't, so we click create. we go to new to create a new measurement table. Now you can choose between an individual measurement table or a standard measurement table. And we'll choose individual, and because standard is a bit more difficult to understand for the beginning. And the unit is again centimeters. And we click OK. So now we need to add the measurements to the measurement table. We can either add a known measurement from all the measurements the program knows, but I don't want to do that because I don't know these measurements. So I always add custom measurements. So now you can see here is a new measurement, and here down here you can edit this measurement. So I explained before, we want to construct the Panty pattern. Here on my website I have the instructions for this Panty pattern, and we will draft this pattern now in Valentina. So when we look, we need these 5 measurements now in our measurement table. So name, this is always the shortcut for the measurement, and here's the full name, so you remember what this measurement was all about. So we start with waist girth, shortcut is this. And the value of the waist girth were 72 centimeters. And if you'd like to, you could add a description, for example, how to measure the waist girth or whatever. But it's not important. Important is the shortcut, and the formula and everything else is just for easier use, but you don't need it. So, and we're doing that again, adding another custom measurement. This time it's the hip girth. And this went 97 centimeters. So yeah, and I'm going to do that now with the other 3 measurements. Now, all finished. We have waist girth, hip girth, waist to hip, crotch depth, and gusset length, which are 5 measurements. So for more complicated patterns, there will be a lot more measurements, but for us, it's only the 5 ones. Now we're going to save that, get a file and then save. And I'm just going to save it on a desktop so I find it easier. So now we minimize this window and we go back to our Valentina. And now we need to tell Valentina that it shall use this measurement table. That means we need to load the measurement table. So we go to measurements again, then load individual and search your measurement table. There it is. And open it. So now nothing happened, but it's there. And yeah, now we can start pattern drafting. Good. Now let's look. Step 1 is to draft these guidelines, and now we will draft these guidelines in Valentina. So at first we will define point D, and we're using this tool here. This is really the most important tool, the tool that you will always use. And it works like this. You click on the first point, and then you click just somewhere in the room, like this. So now you remember the angles in the coordinate system, so we want an angle of 0 degree, and the length shall be a quarter of the waist girth multiplied with 0.9. So how we do that? We're going on this little symbol here, And ta-da! There are measurements from our measurement table that we loaded. And so 1/4 of waist girth. So we go to the waist girth and put it in there with this little hand symbol, like this. And we put it in brackets and division by 4 and multiplied with 0.9. You have to use a comma and a point. So, and then it's calculating your measurement here, and if it's the right one, which it is, you click OK, and OK, and there it is. So you can always use this zoom fit best to see all your points. So next we have from point A to point B. We use the same tool. Click on the first point and we click somewhere in the picture. The angel, it shall go down vertically, so this was 270 degrees. And the length of the line is, again, depending on the measurement. This time it's waist to hip. So we just put it in there. We don't need to calculate anything. Here you have the value, which is the right one, and you click OK. And OK, and there it is. Zoom fit best. It's coming together, isn't it? So now, from B to E. Angel is 0 degrees, and length of the line is hip girth, quarter of the hip girth, multiplied with 0.9. Click OK and OK. Now we line from A to C. We just start with A again and click. Again, 270 degrees for vertical and down. And the length of the line is a bit more difficult. So crotch depth, subtract that, and then we have 1/6 of the gusset length. Okay, and we click OK, and we click OK, and there it is. Now point C to point F in the pattern. Here the points are numbered a different way, but I'm telling you the ones from the pattern. Angels 0 degrees, and this time the length is a fixed length, so the 4 centimeters, the length is 4 centimeters. They will stay the same through all sizes, so I will put in our actual value instead of a formula depending on a measurement. So always when your formula depends on the measurement, then this line or curve will change when you change the measurement table, and when you put in a real value, this length will stay the same when you change the measurement table. So in this case, the 4 centimeters stay the same no matter what size the panty has. So we click OK, and now we want to use a new tool because we want to connect point A1 to point A3. And when we're using this, it looks like a line, but what we're actually doing is creating a new point. And when we want to connect 2 points, we use the line tool, the standard line tool, and we click on point A1 and point A3, and there it is, connected. Now we will go on to step 2. Step 2, drawing the front panty. At first we will draw this line here, then we will draw the curve and mark point H. Now let's gonna do that. Now we will learn a new tool again, as this one. This is also a very important tool. As you can see, it describes a point at a distance along a line. So we click on a tool, then we click on a point from where the line starts, and we click on a point where the line ends. And now here, this is the distance from the first point. In this case, the distance also stays the same through all sizes, so we don't need to calculate it. It's 25 millimeters, that makes 2.5 centimeters. And we just click OK, and there's a new point. And now we can draw first curve. We go to curve and to the simple curve tool, and we start in point A6 and connect it to point A1. And now you can see I have these little handles here, which you can use to shape the curve, or you can just click on the curve and shape the curve, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Or not. Well, I think it was just loading right now. So now it works. You can use the handles or the curve to shape the curve. You will show you on this handle, pretty much perpendicular to that line, and just move it so it gives a nice curve. So curves are not defined by functions, but just by how it looks good. Good. And now we need to mark point H here. Point H lies in the middle between A1 and A3. And we're using again this tool for it. We mark the first point of the line, A1, and the second point, A3. And now there is not a fixed length of, so remember, this is the value how far away the point is from point A1 on this line. It's about, we want it to be in the middle, so we're going to calculate it. We go to the formula, but now it doesn't depend on any of these measurements, but it depends on the length of this line. So we go to length of lines, and there's our line. And so we put it in, and then we divide it by 2. So the new point will always be in the middle of this line, no matter how long this line actually is. I click OK, and OK, and there's a new point. And now we want a line or point 8 millimeters away from this line and perpendicular to this line. And we're going to use this tool for it. So these 3 are also the most important tool for pattern making. It works like this. You click on this point, and then you click on it on the line or on another point. And as you can see how the line moves, the new point will lie on the perpendicular line. So click, and the length of the line should be 8 millimeters. So we put in 0.8 because we are calculating in centimeters. So if you want to go it in a different direction, you can click on the arrow here, and then it will go in this direction, but we don't want it, so we go to 0 degrees. And then we click OK, and there it is. And now we can draw the curve from A1 to A3. Click on A1. Click on A1. Then on A3. And now as here, you can just move the curve upwards. So this goes to point A8. So you don't need to do anything. It just has to look good. So now that's finished, and let's look what we shall do next. Now the instruction tells us to draw a circle around this point with a radius of 0.6 waist to hip. We don't need to do that in Valentina because it goes much simpler, and we can use this tool. This is the same tool as this one, just for curves. So it will create a new point at a defined distance from the starting point of the curve. So we click on a tool, we click on the curve, and the beginning of the curve is already defined by this small arrow you see here. So the length we'll put in here will be from the beginning of the curve. So now again, it's not a defined length, but a calculated length. So we go on that symbol, and this time it depends on the length of a curve. So we go to length of curves and spline. That's the shortcut for spline. A1 to A3, that's the one we want. And we want 60% of it. So multiplied with 0.6, and we click OK, and there is our new point. That's great. So it's even simpler than on paper. And the next thing we need to do is to connect this point to the point A5. Connecting points, remember, we're using the line, so connect. And now let's see what the instructions say. We need to mark a new point 2/3 away of 2/3 length of the line away from H, and then a perpendicular line. I think you know how to do that already, because it's the same we did here. So we're using this tool, clicking on A9 and on I5, and then the length away, how far it is away from A9, and this one's, let's search for a line A9, A5, it's here, and multiply it with 2/3. I see. This is the calculated length, and we click OK and OK, and there is our new point. And now we're using again the tool for perpendicular lines. Clicking here, so now you can see if I turn this way, it goes in this direction, but I don't want that. So turn it around, and it goes in the right direction. So length should be 25 millimeters. Stays the same to all sizes, so 2.5 centimeters. And so we don't have to calculate it. We click OK. And now one last curve, and we're finished with a front panty. The curve goes from A9 to A5. And now we're clicking on the curve. So we're clicking on a curve and moving it. So moving the handles, just that it looks like a nice curve. It's more important that it looks like a nice curve than that it goes to that point. This is just a guideline, a guide point. It doesn't need necessarily to go to there if it looks out of proportion. It's always important when pattern making that you have an eye for the overall proportions. If your overall proportions look wrong to you, then the pattern is most likely also wrong. So try to make this pretty much at a 90 degree angle, and this just looks good. So I think it looks good like this. And ta-da, this is your front panty here, already finished. Now we have to draft the back panty and the gusset pattern. I will go over this a bit faster now because I'll be using the same tools as before, but I won't skip a step, so you can watch everything and follow me with the instructions for the panty pattern from the website. So now you see I made a mistake. I put in 55 centimeters instead of 55 millimeters, and now I can, when I click on it so it's activated, I can go to the information bar and simply change it here. So now I have to change the formula. So now it's the right length. Now I want the half of the line A18, A16 to mark my new point in the middle of it, but Valentina doesn't know how long that line is, because when you click on it, the line goes from A17 to A18. So I first need to create the line A18, A16 to let Valentina know that this line exists. So I create that line. And now I can put a point in the middle of the line. And now I'll be using another new tool. And this is the curved path. The curved path is basically the simple curve put together to several simple curves. So I go in it, and now I want to draw a curve from A9 over A17 and A20 to A16. So I don't click on A20, I just click on A16, and I can then and now you click enter to tell Valentina that your curve is finished. And now you can move the curve around to look as you want it to. Sometimes a good time now to zoom in a bit. You can also change the length of the handles. Just play a bit around with the curve. Oh, not like this, so that it looks nice and smooth. So this looks good. And now I'm going to draw the gusset pattern. Now, in instructions, it is shown to draw the gusset pattern like this. So to move around the back and then put it together. So in Valentina, this is not possible. I kind of just take the back and move it around. That's the one contra argument for Valentina that I mentioned before. So what I will do is I will start a new pattern piece, click on that button here, it's pattern piece 2, click OK. And now it's labeled B instead of A, and this I will use to draw the gusset pattern. Now we finished all the necessary pattern pieces, so we have our front piece, our back piece, and the gusset piece. And now we need to tell Valentina which line belongs to which pattern piece. And for this we have the detail mode. So here, this is the detail mode. And this little symbol here helps us to tell Valentina which line belongs to which piece. So we want to start with the front piece. We need to activate it again. So right now the gusset piece is activated as pattern piece 2. We need to activate pattern piece 1 again. Now, so we click on this detail symbol and we click on the first point of our front piece, which is this one, but you could also start here or whatever you wish. Let's start up here. And now this little window appears, and in this window here you will have all the points and lines that belong to the front piece appear here in the right order, in the order you choose it. And you need to choose all the lines and points that belong to the front piece in clockwise direction, so like this. So next thing we choose is this curve here. So you can see it appears here. And what is very important about curves in Valentina is that they are defined in clockwise direction. So if I go on this curve here, you see this little arrow is in clockwise direction depending on the pattern piece. So, and all the other curves that belong to piece 1, the front piece, must have this arrow in the right direction. So this one goes down, and here you have the arrow in this direction, so it's always following the clockwise direction. And if your curve should have the arrow in the wrong direction, then Valentina will not be able to recognize your curve and would instead just show you a straight line. I have no idea why that's so, but it is so, and you need to consider this. So if your curve has the wrong direction, you need to delete it and redraw it, because Valentina otherwise won't be able to recognize it. So now that said, we'll choose the rest. Now this is next point, and we choose this line, the curve here. What we don't want to end it at point A3, we want to end it at point A9, so we choose the next thing, we choose this point A9. Then this curve, which ends at point A5, and then we choose point A4, and we don't have to choose point A6 again because we chose it at the beginning. Now, if we would have chosen something in wrong order, we could use these little arrows to move the point up and down. And if we accidentally choose something wrong, we can delete it here with this button. So now we can add seam allowance around our piece. Like the default is 1 centimeter, we can choose something else. I always choose 0 centimeters because I don't want any seam allowance, so I can recreate it better later. I can edit it. I don't want to sew it up like this, but you can choose the seam allowance that you wish. You can only choose seam allowance all around the piece, so you for example, you won't want a seam allowance here in the middle because you want to mirror it in the middle, but you can't tell Valentina that. You would have to draw the other this side completely again, so to not have seam allowance here. So now, if everything here is finished, we click OK. Okay, so I was wrong. You don't need a seam allowance of 0 centimeters, but you need to check the button for the seam allowance. So now we click OK. And now we go to our detail mode. And there it is, our new pattern piece. I'll show you soon on the back piece how it would look with the seam allowance. So now we go back to the draw mode to choose our next pattern piece that would be the back. So we click again on the symbol, and we start with the first point from for the back piece, this one. Again, make sure that all your curves go in the right direction. This curve, and it ends at point I9 again. And we choose this curve, and this next curve, and that's it. It starts again as at an A, so we don't need to redefine it. So this time we choose a seam allowance of 1 centimeter, just so that you see it, how it works, how it looks. So we click OK, and we look at our detail mode. So now this time we can also move it away, so it's not over the other piece. And this time here we have 1 centimeter of seam allowance all around the piece. So I don't want that, so I can click on options here and uncheck the seam allowance and click OK, and now seam allowance is gone. And now one last thing for gusset piece, so we click on pattern piece 2 because we had a new piece made for this, and same procedure. And that's it. No seam allowance, and we click OK. And we get to our detail mode, and there is our gusset piece. We can move it around. So now we have all the pieces separated from each other, and the last thing we need to do is to print them or export them, and that's what the layout mode is for. So we go to the layout mode here to layout, and this layout I've already created before, but you won't see anything here. You click on create new layout, then you have some settings here you can adjust. So you can choose your paper size. This is not the paper size of your printer, but it's a paper size where your whole pattern fits into. So for me this is A2, and you need to experiment a bit with this if it doesn't fit right away. Now just ignore this and use the default settings. What is important is the gap width. I use a 1 centimeter. This is how far the pieces are away from each other and from the edge of the paper. So on the rest you just leave as default and click OK. And there is your layout. So now we can either save it as a PDF, we can print it directly from here, or we can export it as another format. And we do that by going to File and then not go to Save, but we go to Layout, and then here are our options. So save as PDF, print, or export. So first thing we do, we save it as PDF. I'm going to save it on my desktop, call it Panty pattern, and click save, and then it's saved. We can print it directly, but I wouldn't recommend this. I would always I would recommend to you first save it as PDF and then print it from there, like with software like a double reader. If you don't know how to print large sewing patterns on your home printer, then I've made another video about this, and here I will put a link in the window and you can click on it and watch it, and there's also a link in the description. Now, how to export the pattern to a new format. We go to Layout and Export As. So here we can choose our path, we can name our file Panty pattern, and here we can choose the format, so we can export it as an image or some other formats, but this is the most important one, because this SVG format will allow us to open the file in CorelDRAW or Illustrator, and we can directly work it with the file there. So we click OK. And last but not least, I want to show you the grading function of Valentina. I've talked about this before and how amazing it is, but now we are finally on the step where I can show you how it actually works. So we go back to our drawing mode here, and here we see our pattern pieces. And now the amazing thing about grading in Valentina is, so everything, we made a pattern with every line or curve either depending on another line or curve, on a fixed value or on a measurement. That means if I now go to the measurement table here, I see our 5 measurements, and now I'm going to change these measurements to another size. Let's say waist size 80 centimeters, hip is 107 centimeters, waist to hip is 25 centimeters, crotch depth is maybe 28 centimeters, and the gusset line stays the same. It's to all sizes. We already know that. So now we're going to save this. We can either save this as another measurement table, or we just save this one if we don't want to save the values we had before. So I just save this one. And now I'll go back to Valentina and click. So this is just the same pattern we had before, because we have not yet told Valentina that we have changed the measurements. But now I clicked on sync measurements, and now you can see the pattern has changed. It's graded to a new size without you doing anything. Really, you can go to the detail mode now, and the pattern here has changed as well, and go to the layout mode, and here you have also the bigger pattern now. So as once you did all the work of drawing the pattern, it's so super simple to grade it to a new size. You really don't have to think at all about grading rules. Only thing you have to do is to go to your measurement table, you change the measurements, and you go back to Valentina and click on sync measurements, and then you have your new size. And this is amazingly simple, isn't it? And that's why I decided to do this tutorial at all, because this function of Valentina is simply amazing. Okay, and that's the end of my tutorial. It was quite long. Thank you for watching and for keeping up with me. I hope this tutorial helped you to understand how Valentina works. I hope you're now able to draft your own patterns with Valentina, and you know where the strengths and weaknesses of Valentina lay, so you know when to use Valentina and when not. Yes, the next things I have in planning is I'm planning to do a tutorial in CorelDRAW, how to do pen drafting and pattern manipulation, and I also plan to do a sewing tutorial, how to sew out the pattern we just drafted. So if you wish to stay updated, you can either subscribe to my channel, you can follow me on Facebook, or subscribe to the newsletter on my website. I hope you see you again, and I wish you good luck on your pattern making journey. Goodbye.